Hello everyone, this is OMN. I have special guest today. My special guest, before I introduce you to my special guest, let me say a few words about him. He stands for the truth, decency, and humanity. He advocates for everyone fighting against injustice and tyranny. He advocates and stands in solidarity with Oromo people for long period of time. He always show up in rallies and meetings of Oromos in Minnesota. My today's guest is Senator John Hoffman. Senator, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for the introduction.
So let me start. My first question is, 2 days ago, there was a press conference in the Senate. I saw a video of you circulating on the media. You were speaking in passion, and you were very it shows that you are disappointed. And what makes you so emotional about what is going on in Ethiopia?
Well, let me unpack that. There's lots of layers in that, right? And first of all, there's a little 5-year-old boy here in my Senate District 36, which is Brooklyn Park, Champlin, and Coon Rapids. And his mom, who is a constituent, is the wife of Jawar Mohammed. So this little 5-year-old boy doesn't know where his dad is, right? And even if he does know where his dad is, the fact is his dad is being held without due process rights, right? There's a human rights violation. And I thought that we would be not at this place, especially with what I'm hearing is happening and what I see is happening, right? In 2014, I, along with the other senators and House members, had written a resolution that condemned the violence that occurred when the college students were shot because they were peacefully protesting. And there's the kicker. You peacefully protest, right? That's a God-given right we have in the United States of America. That is a God-given right that we have right here in the state of Minnesota, right? That, you know, there's one thing you and I could do is go out and protest whatever. You pick it, right? And when we know that the military is not going to come and take us away because that's our right. First Amendment right, right? Also the freedom to assemble, the freedom to protest, right? Peacefully. And so when I had witnessed in 2014 what was happening, and to know that these college students, which are our sons, our daughters, right? That was wrong. So we did a resolution which opened up the door for then Congressman Ellison and Congressman Emmer had done H.R. 14, right, which was highlighting the human rights violations that were occurring over there. And then we had seen some movement in that direction. 2018, for the first time, we welcomed the Prime Minister's entourage. First time in the state of Minnesota that an Ethiopian jetliner landed on the tarmac. And I was there. Senator Fong was there. We welcomed. And we talked about peace and justice, right? And we're assured the democracy was going to reign free in the nation of Ethiopia. 2020, we had to do another resolution because that promise to elected officials and that promise to us wasn't happening and is not happening. And then as such, we did another resolution, which then leads me back to my first point. There's a boy here in Minnesota whose dad is being held, a Minnesota resident that's being held in Ethiopia prison. And what we're saying is he needs to come home. And we need to also look at the fact that there are still human rights violations that are going on. You talk about why is my passion there. My grandfather tells a story. His family was basically booted out of Odessa, Russia, right, and came to the United States. He witnessed his family, some of his family members get killed. And so the pain that I would see in my grandfather's eyes, right, are the same pain that I'm seeing in my friends' eyes who are from Brooklyn Park. So if you talk about it, not only is it personal, right, but my God, this dad needs to come home. Let his son see his father. I mean, that's a fundamental human right, isn't it?
It is. Let me ask you about the press conference a little bit. So what was the content of the press conference you guys made in State Senate?
Well, we wanted to do, as a follow-up to the resolution that Senator Dietzick and I and the other senators had done in 2020, we wanted to do a delegation letter. And what that means is we on a local state level will send a letter to the delegates, our federal delegation, right? So we sent this letter out, and which highlighted what is happening and highlighted some things that we wanted to see change. Medical attention be brought to, due process rights be brought. Folks that are political prisoners, why are you holding political prisoners? Again, going back to the fact that I'm a Minnesotan and I know one thing, that my political views, although some people might disagree with them, at least I know one thing: I'm not going to be put in a jail by the federal government, right? I mean, that's just not going to happen, because that's our God-given right, right? And so we wanted to highlight that letter and bring light to our delegation, federal delegation, that they need to intercede, as they did in 2014, to make sure that human rights violations were not, were being looked at, watched at, and changed, right? And since then, already Representative McCollum and Representative Ilhan Omar have responded. Representative McCollum has already sent a letter to our Secretary of State federally, Blinken, asking for that office now intercede. So what the purpose was is exactly what we did, was to get our delegation to move forward on that. And as such, I will be following up with phone calls to our U.S. senators to make sure that A, they got the letter, B, that they're needing any kind of follow-up, and C, that they actually do and will follow up, because a Minnesotan citizen and his family are not being treated well.
My next question is, as someone who knows Jawar, his wife, and his son, what did you felt after you heard his arrest after the massive killing of Hachalu? What was the first feeling, or what was the first memory that comes to your mind when you hear the news?
I was shocked. I was shocked that somebody who basically was trying to get something done for a friend. I mean, it would be like in Minnesota, if something would have happened, and Prince is no longer with us, but let's say our favorite Minnesota musician, something would have happened, and the government would have stopped his family from wanting his wishes done, right? That's the same thing that was going on here. But why did it have to turn into a mass fight? And why did it have to turn into somebody being arrested? It shouldn't have had to. It was, again, what I see as a simple human right. I want to have my body buried someplace. I should have that right to do that, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is I kept seeing the image of Arafasi and her son, and he was the youngest door knocker I ever had in the history of my political elections, right? He
in
was
2016.
2 months old. He was 2 months old, and there's this picture of him and his mom, and he's swaddled up, and there's a little sticker. There's a John Hoffman sticker on that little swaddle that he's wearing. That became personal for me, because all I kept seeing was that vision of him and his mom, and just thinking, it's not okay. It's not okay. Your dad isn't here. Your dad, or you don't have access to your dad. It's just not okay. And then to find out he's being withheld his own, doctor to intervene and to help and to also know that this hunger strike is putting light to the human rights violations that are still happening, right? And why is that important? As you know, Minnesota has the largest Oromo population in the United States. It's right here, Minnesota, right? And we have been at the Capitol multiple times, peacefully protesting with other senators about human rights violations, and seeing the police and the State Patrol allowing that to occur, right? Because it's a right here. We take that for granted in Minnesota, right? And to know that what's happening over there, it just, to me, is just unsettling. And so you ask about my first emotion. It was shock, right? And then huge sadness. Sadness that we are treating people like that, right? Can't we just treat people like people again? I mean, set these differences aside. Have a conversation. Realize that we're going to move forward. We need to move forward, right? That's the Minnesota way. And that's what we would expect here in Minnesota. Let's expect it over there as well.
So you told me that as a member of the Senate, you guys reach out to the state senators, the two senators, the Tina Smith's office and Amy Klobuchar. as well as the congressmen and women in the state. So some of them already started responding for the requests. And what is the content of the response they made, or what is the content of the letter they wrote to the State Department?
So I know Representative McCollum's office forwarded the letter that we had done directly to the State Department, which is what we wanted to have done, because we highlight in there things that we're asking to happen. So she did exactly what we need to happen, was to forward that letter with the response saying, you know, please look into this, and that's exactly what we did in 2014, right? When we did the same thing, and then we had Ellison and Emmer offices responded, and then hence created, I believe it was HR 14. If Tashidi Wako was here, he would be able to tell me it was. I think it was HR 14 is what was created on the federal level. So that same thing, the same awareness that's out there, because, you know, anytime that there's a human rights violation, it just doesn't affect a region of the world, or it affects all of us, right? I mean, there's got to be some reciprocity and mutual respect going on here, and I'm not seeing that, and it's really sad.
So recently, as you mentioned, the prisoners, the political prisoners in Ethiopia, almost including Jawar, who is Minnesotan and his family is here, they are holding a hunger strike to oppose the tyranny, to oppose the injustice going on here and there in the country. And the response from the government is just the government officials are joking over it, while the prisoner's life is at risk. What did you felt about it?
This is life or death. What would get somebody to all of a sudden feel like they weren't being valued, listened to, or respected, right? Three little things that we all expect. And in order to highlight that, then they're going to actually put their life on the line and do a hunger strike. Not okay. Not okay. And it's not a hunger strike because you want to change a light bulb on Main Street, or you want to change something, right? You know, you hear that happen all the time. But this is a hunger strike about peaceful, free, fair elections. This is a hunger strike about treating people like people. This is a hunger strike that says stop the madness, stop the killing, right? It's amazing to me that that's a simple human principle that is just set aside. So if one person is able to just set somebody aside because of their differences, what does that tell you about humanity in general? It says it's wrong, right? And to me, that comes back to that personal piece. And I keep seeing a picture of his son, and we need to treat people better. Treat people like people. Wouldn't that be a slogan? Can we start treating people like people again, right? Regardless of the differences that are occurring in there. Wow, it just bothers me.
So before we start this conversation, we were talking about someone in Marshall Street coming out, opposing whatever political view he or she want, supporting whatever political group she or he want.
Right.
So in Ethiopia today, it's very hard even to wear a designated color of clothes, let alone expressing your feeling on the media, or you just wore a yellow color tie. What does that indicate? Does it have any sort of relationship with what is going on in Ethiopia?
Yeah, the story of I can wear this and know that I'm going to walk outside and I'm not going to get arrested, right? This is in solidarity of the people that are in the prison system right now because of their political indifference, right? Because they're saying, well, we got to treat people differently, right? And I'm not going to get into the wayside conversations about, well, this person did that, that person did this, right? Let's stop for a moment. Let's back this train up and say, how are we treating individuals? Are we listening? Are we valuing or respecting them? This is my way of saying I value and respect the folks that are doing what they're doing right now. And it is the yellow color that the prisoners are wearing, right? Because that's the color they chose. Well, I put on yellow today because I want Jawar to know that there are people in his home state, And even though he got his education at Columbia and Stanford, I'm okay with that. Our Fosse, there's pictures of those guys when they were in their college days, and I'm okay that he was in California. But the fact is, he was a neighbor right here in Brooklyn Park, right? And he started the media network that is here. And if you look at Oromo Media Network, OMN, it says "Oh Minnesota." So let's just be what it is, man. It's "Oh Minnesota," right? So even though you're thousands of miles away, know that there are people here in Minnesota that love you, and we want you to know that. We want you to be safe, and we're pleading to people to intervene for the peaceful life of Jawar and folks. Come on. I mean, it's not okay, right? How many times can I say that? That's just not okay. It would never be something that we stand for in Minnesota, ever, right? And it is just not okay.
Thank you, thank you.
So I'm going to wear yellow. Today, yeah. I'll wear yellow tomorrow. I'll wear yellow on the Senate floor tomorrow. So there you go. It's like...
Thank you. My next question, as you see Arfase, the wife of Jawar, struggling with Oromo, as dad, as somebody who got a daughter, I know your dad, and you got daughter, and you got family. So Jawar is not, Oromo is not getting access to talk to Jawar, his dad, which is a God-given human right. Just having, contacting your family, having conversation it's a human right. It's very inhuman to block family members from contacting each other. His situation in Ethiopia right now, in the prison right now, is a very scary. Is in a between life and days. What did you feel when you saw Oromo having paper in his hand saying, "Free my dad"?
Yeah, that picture too. That was a Facebook, and here he was holding up "Free my dad," and Arfase was there, and my wife had pointed that out to me, and I think about the fight I would do for my young child, right? Of fighting the HMOs and the insurance industry, on simple medical rights, right? That same feeling was there. I would do the same. I would fight, for my son, my daughter, the same way. And it was painful to see, because there's a void in his life, his son. There's a void in Arfase's life and in his son's life, and his other family, the other family members, moms and dads, his brothers and sisters, cousins, whoever, right? And that void is there because somebody is choosing, because of political indifference, to hold you in a prison, right? Look, in Minnesota, due process rights are file the charges, give my day in court. I'm innocent until proven guilty, right? Allow me to do the compare contrast, and allow a judge, and even judges that have said get him the care that he needs are gone without any transparency, or without any kind of accountability, right? And so what does that tell you about the system? What is the real reason they're doing this to Jawar, and what is the real reason they're doing this to other people? Just because you oppose of me politically? That makes absolutely zero sense to me, right? We had a transition here in the United States of America. 80 plus million people voted for now President Biden, and 75 million voted for former President Trump, right? At the end of the day, even with this coup attempt that Trump's people tried to do, right? Piff, we had that evening had the transition of power because of the constitutional. We hold ourselves right to the Constitution. I uphold my hand to the Constitution of the state of Minnesota and the United States of America, right? And within that are freedoms that we have, right? Freedom to do this, freedom to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, right? And so what's really happening to him is totally against everything that I, as somebody who upholds my hand to the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Minnesota, sees. And I just cannot understand why it continually happens in Ethiopia, which is a beautiful country. Man, my goodness, the richness of Ethiopia is just beyond, right? And Although I have a good friend from Kenya who tells me that his coffee is better than the Ethiopian coffee. And I said to him, no, not even close. There is no comparison, right? It's like some of the best. And you talk about, look at the enrichment that Ethiopia has brought to the state of Minnesota, right? You got the best food right here. You go on University Avenue, pick a spot, right? Tashidi, my friend, he and his wife have a restaurant, right? And my favorite thing is the coffee. So anyway, I mean, so you think about, okay, that's something that we all share in common. I mean, there's a commonness to that, because we're treating each other like we are treating each other, right? And we're not just setting you aside because of a political indifference, right? Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yep. So these people, they put Jawar, Bakala Garba, and other political prisoners in prison for the mere fact that they have different political view than the regime that is leading the country right now, unconstitutionally. Actually, the constitutional term of the government have just gone long time ago. So in prison, one of the question they have right now, one of their demand is just to get treated in a hospital of their choice. Mm-hmm. Doesn't the prisoners have the choice to like the right to choose the medical facility they want to go and treat it at? Like in Minnesota, there are a lot of healthcare centers. Doesn't prisoners in Minnesota have the right to choose whichsoever medical facility or healthcare facility they want to go to?
Those healthcare facilities that would have open, that would have the ability to have a prisoner go to, right? Then there's still a piece that says that but here's what we don't have. There is, within our prison system, right? We have an obligation under the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. Minnesota Department of Human Rights. We have a human rights, if somebody needs medical attention within the prison system, they're going to get it, right? The Department of Health, they put prisoners into a priority for the COVID vaccine, right? Okay. Some folks would say, well, they're in prison. Well, the fact is they're still human beings, right? There's still a humanity clause there on that piece, right? But we're not going to be made in Minnesota. No one's going to tell you as a Minnesota prisoner, well, there's only one place for you to go get your treatment, which is the military hospital, right? It's not going to happen, right? It's not. Our Department of Public Safety has contracts with regions, you name the hospitals, they got it, right? And it just so happens that there is still a little bit of choice there to be able to do that. In this case, I don't know how that structure is set up. But I don't think you go to a military hospital and then not have, some kind of ability to have control over, your medical needs. I don't understand that. That one is beyond me. But the real argument still exists. Why is he there? Why is he continually there, right? Charge him. Go in front of a judge and a jury, right? But don't just withhold, and don't withhold and saying, well, we're going to allow you this, only you have to go to a military hospital. Is he going to be safe if he goes to a military hospital? That's a question that pops up. That question's never here. Is somebody going to be safe in Minnesota? Yeah, because they're not going to go to a military hospital. Well, first of all, our military hospitals are the VA center. That's not going to be treating them the way that, we would want to assume that could happen, right, in Ethiopia. So it's just sad. I mean, I think I've said sad like 15 times during this interview. I don't know what other word I can do. There's a little bit of anger, I don't expect anybody in Minnesota to be treated the way that he's being treated, right?
Absolutely.
Wrong.
Any attempt to push forward with the request you guys made to state senators, congressmen, and congresswomen? A few of them already responded. Yep. There are others that are not responded yet for the request. Any plan to push forward?
Yeah, I talked earlier on about it. We're going to follow up with direct contacts. I'm going to call Congressman Emmer's office today. I happen to have the cell phone of a direct contact there, just to make sure that they got it, because like Representative Ilhan Omar It got the email we sent to them. You know, he's like, you got a copy of it, because he couldn't. And then it dawned on him that it was sent. So they get probably hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. And so it's just that follow-up is just a way to say, hey, check your inbox from me and Senator Dietzich, Senator Abler, Senator Omar Fateh, Senator Eaton, Senator Fong He. Senator Fong He actually, because he was in media himself, he's known Jawar through that channel. I mean, they were both videographers, or, you know, some aspect, but and he talked about that in our press conference about his personal relationship with Jawar, right? Yeah. So yeah, this is touching home. This is touching home to a lot of people, and we wanted to get a letter, our delegation letter, out quickly, because this is life and death. Timing on this is now, right? Peace and justice is now. Do what you said you were going to do in 2018. Peace and justice.
Senator, thanks for coming to the studio. And before we conclude our interview, any message to Oromos in Minnesota, in back home, families of the prisoners, including the wife of Jawar Arfase and his son Oromo? If you have any message for them.
Yeah, I think two of the senators said it well when, you know, just bring dad home. I mean, it was an underlying message. You know, a dad needs to come home to Minnesota. You might have a difference between somebody. Don't personalize that difference. And I say the same thing here. Don't personalize the difference, right? Stay focused. Stay focused on the end result, what you want. You want peaceful transition. You want fair elections. You want people to start treating people like people, right? Then let's keep that. Let's keep the peace, right? We were promised in 2018. We saw a light for new peace, right? With the new administration that was coming into Ethiopia. Go back to that. I want them to go back to 2018 when they landed here in Minnesota and we talked about peace and we talked about honoring people's rights, right? It's not too late to go back there and do that. It's not too late to go back and say, all right, you and I have a difference of opinion. We have a difference. We're going to need to set aside our egos, right? Part of it is draw the line, get the egos get the ego into the hallway. What's good for Ethiopia? What's good for the country of Ethiopia, right? Start treating people like people. And it's okay to have a difference. Do you know the best friend I have in the Senate is a Republican? I'm a Democrat, right? And if you look at the national scene, Democrats and Republicans, and you see this all the time, oh my God, it's pretty polarizing, isn't it? You see it, turn on news. And people that are in Ethiopia, they turn on, you know, the news network and they see the Republicans, Democrats, and all they do is fight, right? Not in Minnesota. We're the only split legislature in the nation, right? The House is run by the Democrats, the Senate is run by the Republicans. Yet we got stuff done the last biennium, and we're going to get stuff done this year. And, you know, to have a bipartisan letter be sent out, what does that tell you about how Minnesota looks at political indifferences, right? We can set our egos aside. We can have an honest, honorable conversation about what's right, what's not right, right? Stay focused, people. Stay focused. And you know what Barack Obama used to say, keep hope alive. I'm saying the same thing here, keep hope alive. Do not forget. Do not forget. Keep hope alive. Start treating people like people. We hear you in Minnesota. We love you from Minnesota. Be well.
Senator John, thanks for coming to OMN studio and share your precious time with us. And I look forward to have you in the studio again.
Anytime.
In the future, after maybe the prisoners got released, then we saw the result of what we're doing now.
I pray, and that the current administration looks back to what they promised in 2018 when they came off the tarmac, and you know, one of his entourage said, "Yeah, I know who you are," and I hope that he remembers our conversation about peace and justice, and let's do that.
Senator John Hoffman, thanks once again.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to our interview. I look forward to come with another guest another time. Thank you.